Chapter 11. The Virtue of Fortitude as Practiced by the Most Holy Mary. The virtue of fortitude, which is the third of the four cardinal virtues, serves to moderate the personal activity of each one's choleric affections. Although it is true that concupiscence precedes irascibility, and therefore temperance, which regulates concupiscence, might seem to precede fortitude, because the resistance pertaining to fortitude is exerted against that which opposes concupiscence. Nevertheless, we must first treat of the activity of the choleric affections and their moderation through fortitude. For in the pursuit of that which is desired, success ordinarily depends upon the intervention of the irascible faculties for overcoming the obstacles that present themselves. Therefore, fortitude is a more noble and excellent virtue than temperance, of which we shall treat in the following chapter. The moderation of the irascible passions by the virtue of fortitude is made up of two elements or kinds of activity: to give way to anger in conformity with reason, propriety, and honor, and to repress unreasonable anger and passion whenever it is more useful to restrain than to allow them to act. For as well the one as the other can be praiseworthy or blamable according to the end in view and the circumstances of the affair in hand. The first of these two kinds of operations of this virtue is properly called fortitude, being called by some teachers pugnacity. The second is called patience, which is the more noble and excellent kind of fortitude, and is possessed and exercised principally by the saints. The worldly minded, throwing aside good judgment and usurping a false term, are apt to call patience pusillanimity, and miscall inconsiderate and rash presumption fortitude. Thus it comes that they never attain the true practice of the virtue of fortitude. In Most Holy Mary, there were no inordinate movements which could call to activity the irascible affections for the exercise of fortitude. For in the most innocent Queen all the passions were well ordered and subject to reason, and her reason was subject to God, who governed her in all her actions and movements. But she was in need of this virtue in order to overcome the obstacles placed by the devil in diverse ways, seeking to prevent her from attaining what she most prudently and most properly desired for herself and her most holy Son. And in this most valiant resistance and conflict, none of the creatures ever showed more fortitude. For no one ever encountered such conflicts and opposition as she from the demon. But whenever it became necessary to make use of this kind of fortitude or pugnacity with human creatures, she was equally sweet and forcible, or rather, she was just as irresistible as she was most sweet in her activity. For this heavenly lady alone among all creatures was able to copy so faithfully in her operations that attribute of the Most High, which unites irresistible power with heavenly sweetness. Thus our Queen proceeded in her actions with fortitude, knowing no disorderly fear in her generous heart, as she was superior to all creation. Neither was she rash or audacious or immoderate, being alike removed from all these vicious extremes. For in her great wisdom she knew what terrors were to be vanquished, and what rashness was to be avoided. Thus she was the chosen woman, clothed in the strength of fortitude and beauty. That part of fortitude which consists in patient endurance, Most Holy Mary practiced in a still more admirable manner, for she alone participated in the excellent patience of her Most Holy Son, who bore punishment and suffered innocently without guilt, and in a greater measure than all those who had contracted the guilt. The whole life of the sovereign queen was a continual suffering and tribulation, especially during the life and passion of our Redeemer Jesus Christ. Her patience during this time exceeds the comprehension of all creatures, and only the Lord, who imposed this suffering upon her, could worthily understand its greatness. Never was this most pure dove excited to the least impatience against any creature, nor did any of the immense tribulations and sorrows of her life seem great to her, nor was she ever dejected on account of them, nor did she fail to accept them all with joy and gratitude. If, according to the apostle, the first requisite of charity, and as it were its firstborn, is patience, and if our queen was the mother of love, then she was also the mother of patience, and her love is the measure of her patience. For in the degree in which we love and esteem the eternal good, and we should esteem it above all visible things, in that degree will we be ready, in order to obtain it and avoid the loss of it, to suffer all hardships in patience. Hence most holy Mary in her love was patient beyond all that is created, and she was the mother of patience for us. Flying to her protection, we shall find the Tower of David with its 1,000 shields of patience pending from it, with which the brave ones of the Church and of the militia of Christ our Lord arm themselves for battle.